Vodafone has got a pretty great track record of producing quality budget phones. Last year's Smart Ultra 6 was our 2015 budget phone of the year, so I was pretty excited to see what it had up its sleeves for the Smart Prime 7. At £75, you cannot argue with the price, but can you argue with the specs? Let's get into the review and find out. First off, it looks like a £75 phone, and that's a bit sad. It's plastic with a removable back cover that looks like it's textured, but it isn't. The power button and volume rocker are both on the right hand side. They're textured and protrude nicely so you can feel them in your pocket, but they don't quite give you a satisfying click. But it is a nice thin phone at 7.9mm thick. The screen comes in at 5 inches, and although it's slightly larger than an iPhone 6s, it surprisingly feels like a smaller phone, probably because of that thin, lightweight plastic. There's a 1280 by 720p IPS display with a pixel density of 293 pixels per inch. If you look close enough, you can make out a few pixels, but on the whole, it's a solid screen with good color accuracy and viewing angles. Unfortunately, that screen isn't all too responsive. It sometimes doesn't register when you've pressed something, and it makes you feel like you should be tapping very, very hard. There could be a combination of the screen technology and the lower end processor, but whatever it is, it can get pretty frustrating at times. To keep the price down, Vodafone has opted for a lower end processor. The Smart Prime 7 runs off a Snapdragon 210 and 1GB of RAM. Considering you can currently pick up the Smart Ultra 6, which has a Snapdragon 615 processor and 2GB of RAM for £99, Vodafone is almost pricing themselves out with this one. But if you do want to keep costs low and save those £25, it's a perfectly usable phone for simple tasks such as messaging, phone calls, emails, and Facebook. Bigger applications can be slow to open though, and they often grind once you're in them, and web pages take their time too. The phone is running on Android Marshmallow, which was a nice surprise, and offers a fairly stock Android experience, save for the bloatware added by Vodafone, which was a fair amount of extra unnecessary applications, albeit uninstallable apps for the most part. On the box, the phone says it comes with 8GB of internal storage, although after the OS and Vodafone apps, you're only left with 4GB of usable space. This is the phone's biggest shortcoming, meaning only the most rudimentary won't fill it up. Thankfully, there's room for a micro SD card under the back cover, and you'll need one. There's an 8MP back camera and a 5MP front camera. Neither are brilliant, although you've got to remember you only paid £75 for this phone. The cameras don't capture much detail, and you wouldn't want to zoom in on a picture, but they're good enough to share on social media. There's also fairly comprehensive manual controls, which is nice to see at this price point. Because it's Android, you have access to all the multimedia applications you'll need through the Google Play Store, like Netflix and Spotify, but you wouldn't want to use this phone as a gaming device. It just doesn't have the processing power or storage. If there's one standout for this phone, it's the battery life. It's brilliant. I was getting 2 full days of use out of it, which came as a surprise. The battery only has 2,540 milliamps of power. I assume it performs so well because I did cut back my usage a fair bit. I just couldn't cope with the slow UI. I did keep in contact with the outside world through Facebook and WhatsApp, but I really couldn't handle much more. It also takes advantage of Android Marshmallow's doze mode, so left overnight it will only drop a couple of %, and the processor demands of the 210 aren't through the roof. It charges through regular old micro USB, and there's no wireless charging. At the end of the day, this is a phone that cost you £75. It's slower than higher end phones, it has an average camera, and the screen isn't terribly responsive. But it still does everything you need a phone to do. You can send emails, messages, it has good sound quality for phone calls, and you can use it for social media. If you simply can't spend more than £75, then it is a good buy. It's ridiculously affordable, and it'll do everything you need it to. If you can afford to spend an extra £25 though, I'd recommend going for the Smart Ultra 6. The only catch for both of these phones, you will need to be on or willing to move to Vodafone as your network provider, which may not be a catch at all. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this review useful. If you did, hit that thumbs up button and don't forget to hit subscribe. That's how you'll keep on top of everything that we're doing.